Hi, and welcome to Partners in Progress, a couples podcast about love, life, and well-being in your 20s with me, Eloise.
And me, Sammy.
In this podcast, we'll be discussing topics like relationships, health, well-being, spirituality, and just life. From tips and tricks to failures and falls, all while sharing our story as we try to figure out building and growing a life together in the chaos of modern-day society. We'll be coming to you every Sunday with our shares and invite some guests to share their experiences too. So grab a blanket, a cuppa, and settle in to Partners in Progress. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm hoping I don't sound ill still, because this last week I have been, as expected, probably the burnout came for me.
Came later than I was expecting it to. I will say that. It seemed, I thought, oh, she's got past it, because it was like a few days after we got back, you were fine. And then it seemed like sort of start of this week, which is a week after the proposal and everything, is when it just started to hit you like a truck, really.
Yeah, it's weird. Like normally, like for context, like normally we go on like a trip or mostly it's when we go on trips, to be fair. I just have like a flare up of like cold and flu symptoms, which we kind of think is associated with my like chronic fatigue syndrome. People talk about having these like crashes when they've like overexerted, whether it's like fully because of my chronic condition or just because as humans we have a limit and we get burnt out.
You hit the ceiling every time.
Yeah,
we do that.
I feel like my stamina is just a little bit lower. So normally like a day or so after we get back from a trip, I just immediately my throat starts hurting and yeah, just all your classic cold and flu symptoms just come at me, really. But this time it was really weird because we had the Peak District weekend, which we did like two decently sized walks.
Two pretty decently sized walks, and then we just sort of came straight back from there to here on the last day.
On the Monday.
Yeah.
And then on the Tuesday morning, we went off to Milton Keynes and got engaged.
As you do.
And went and that involved a walk as well, didn't it? And then we went to London.
Yes.
On the same day. And then Wednesday, we came back from London to Milton Keynes and then Milton Keynes to home.
Nice chill 5 days, really.
I know. And obviously getting engaged, like a very emotional time.
Yeah, and it's emotionally not draining, but it's a lot emotionally, I think.
Yeah,
you have all the excitement and stuff.
I think even like happy emotions, like if you're feeling like a extreme kind of emotion, like regardless of which way it does, like it's likely to kind of like use up that battery, isn't it? Because you're in a kind of higher state than your usual.
Yeah.
I think probably the only emotion that you probably don't have any kind of impact on your energy levels is something like contentment, I imagine.
Yeah, just like neutral.
Yeah, just your kind of baseline emotional level, I think. So obviously because it was such a happy time, I think
kind of running on that sort of high of it for at least around the engagement, but also the other holiday was just very fun as well. So I think it's
and then but yeah, then we got back and I was actually fine. Like I was like, oh great, I'm gonna reset the house and stuff like that. And then I think what must have tipped me over is I had a really busy couple of days of work back to back.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, because the weather's brighter now, we're seeing an increase of participation. So there's a lot more kind of kids, like we're hitting around 50 kids compared to maybe like 20 to 30.
Which is so many kids on a session.
It just goes a bit mad, really. Like it's good fun, but I think it was just kind of that which made Sunday became when I just started like feeling like I had a like tickle in my throat and I was like, oh dear,
it's starting. I can sense it.
Yeah, what were we doing on Sunday though? I feel like we didn't do it. What did we do? Because I don't think it was a particularly restful day, or was it?
No, I think we were doing some outdoor stuff, I think. So we were like sorting out some garden bits and pieces. I think we started on the building a little ladder for the cats to get up and down from their catio, which is a whole separate story. But
It doesn't need to be a story.
it doesn't need a story apparently. With my behind the scenes. But yeah, I think we were doing bits and pieces. It wasn't super restful. I
I don't
think.
know. I can't remember what Sunday was, to be honest.
Fair enough.
But yeah, anyway, I started feeling a little bit there, and I don't think I rested enough on that day. And so Monday, I think, was my worst day. And to be fair, I only had it really for across like 4 or 5 days, and the worst of that only being like 2 days. So that's all fine. But yeah, then you woke up this morning feeling a little bit burnt out yourself.
I think it's the same sort of thing last night. Like literally right before we went to bed, my throat started feeling a bit tickly, and I was like, oh. And then I think I woke up a few times in the night where it's just like, oof, it's aching.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really got away today. And I'm like, it's that sort of point where you're like, you could get better, it could get worse. So we'll see where we land tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel like it's everyone has like these warning signs when your body's kind of hadn't, like, it's trying to signal to you like you need to slow down right now.
Yeah.
And I feel, but sometimes I do wonder sometimes if like other couples or like people that like live with another person get these kind of like empathetic, like, like if one of you burns out, then the other one burns out. Do you know what I mean? Because
I do, yeah.
I don't like, we obviously, like, if there's like an actual like cold or like
Flu, whatever you want,
an actual like virus or bacteria, whatever you've picked up, but ours, like there's a lot of occasions where it's kind of just like this, isn't it? It's just like a burnout.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it's a specific bug or anything, just with how we are. Because I mean, again, we both know our burnout symptoms, and I think they're also quite similar between us, to be honest. But
yeah, exactly. But I just wonder how the couples and people that live with like another person have that as well.
I felt too bad for you, so my body's decided to join you in.
Well, not necessarily that,
no.
But that you're on the same kind of, like, like how we normally get hungry around the same kind of time, and we get tired around the same time because we have a routine because we live together,
Yeah.
So I wonder, and I feel like, if one of us is anxious, the other one will maybe feel a bit of that anxiety as well. So you just
reflect across you both.
When you have like a deep connection with someone, it feels like you kind of do have this thing where you start feeling each other's how the other person's feeling. And it's the way, like, I feel like sometimes we have these like full conversations without actually saying anything.
I do know what you mean, because I think sometimes like one of us will start a thought and then the other will kind of interrupt with half an answer, and then we'll be like, yeah, okay, cool, and then that's kind of it.
Or I'll like make a decision, whether it's like about doing something or like making a certain type of food or something, and I wouldn't have had a discussion with you about it, but I kind of know that's what you want. Like, there's kind of things like that where I haven't actually discussed with you like, oh, what would you like to eat, but I just know that what you'd want to, or like what to watch and things like that. I feel like we definitely have these full conversations without actually speaking, and I always used to think that wasn't really something that people did, like that was actually a thing. Like, I thought it was a cute concept, but maybe just like a sweet thing, but
that people say but don't really mean, or things
like
that.
Or maybe just it's not as like to the level that I now see that it kind of can be, and it's just quite funny because we just have the same thoughts about things.
Yeah, but I think, again, like you say, that kind of comes with the living with someone pretty much all the time, on and off, for like 4 or 5 years, really. So
and I suppose because so much of our life impacts the other person, we tend to take it into consideration when making any decisions as well. So it just makes natural sense to be like, oh, this is something that you'll like as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It makes sense to me, at least. But I think, given what we've just been talking about, everyone else could be like, what are you waffling on about? It's a mental conversation that is making it all make sense.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully that will come into the wedding planning as well.
Yes.
But I just because of the way our working schedules and things work, it so feels like so much of it's gonna be on me, and I feel like I'm already starting to, like, not really plan, but start thinking about certain things, and it's weird being in your 20s where there's so many different life stages and milestones you can go through at that age.
Yeah.
And it feels like there are so many decisions to make, not just about like wedding, but
Life.
life stuff. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's, because until you're 18, especially here in the UK, it's very, you follow a certain path, don't you?
Yeah, I think up to that point, it's very much like you got your primary school, secondary school, and then like sixth form or college or some form of higher
Apprenticeship.
education, apprenticeship. Yeah, for the most part, I think that's pretty covers like 90% of people. Again, sweeping generalization, but like I would
Well,
assume.
legally, you have to be in some form of education till you're 18. That's
I
what I
always forget
mean.
that's legal requirement up to 18 now. I swear it used to be 16, but yeah, I remember they did. I think
Yeah, I
they
think it's
increased it.
18 now.
Yeah, no, you're right. I feel like it got increased at some point.
Yeah, it did when I was in sixth form, I think, which was why it
You were
was.
ready to leave, and they were like, "No,"
Yeah,
and
I
rope
think
you
like
back in.
literally like our year was when it had come out or
Yeah,
something
I
like that,
remember
so
it
everyone
being
had to be.
recent-ish for when I was doing it, so it would make sense it was your one that
Yeah,
that got
but yeah,
started
so
with.
there's this nice, laid out path for you. Of course, you've got decisions in that, but when you turn 18, that's when the the paths you can take really branch off, don't you? Like there are so many people that we know that are our age, and we're all in such different life stages. You've got people that are, have kids, and you've got people that are like established in their careers, you've got people that are traveling, you've got people that are living at home and educating or changing paths and stuff like that. Like there's so many different directions we're all
Yeah.
going, and but I feel like there's also this pressure to do all the things and have all the things, and you're being pulled in so many different directions. Like everyone's always got advice for like your 20 somethings, don't they? Do you agree?
I do agree, because I think it's, like, something you see online, and, I've seen in, like, articles and things as well. It's like it is more prevalent now that you just see all these things, and it's kind of expected that you'll do everything, but equally,
Mhm.
it's probably, like, one of the hardest times and generations to do it, I think,
Mm.
just in terms of from a financial perspective purely. Um,
Yeah, literally.
so I think there might have been, again, it depends what you do, how much you earn, all this jazz, but I don't think it's as easy to, like, kind of be renting a place on yourself, or like with a partner, or
Mm-mm.
own your own home, and then also go traveling 3-4 times a year to all these various places as well on top of that nowadays. So
I
it's
mean, I think it's especially difficult for people that are like single 20 something year olds
yeah.
because unless you are the very small minority of people that came fresh out of school or education, like university,
Mm,
and went straight into a high paying job, which doesn't happen, really, that I've known of. So when you're like a single 20 something, what are your options for like leaving home? You kind of go to university. Well, it's like certain people go to university, you have the experience of like living independently, then university finishes, and where do you go? You can't afford renting because it's so extortionately expensive, and also it's not necessarily a choice that everyone wants to make, because
no.
if you go into rented, and we know from our experience, it's so hard to get out of it, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's so weird because it's so hard to get into it in the first place, because we had such a
Mhm.
nightmare trying to get places with us in our specific situations,
Mhm.
and then equally on the other side of it, it's really hard to get out of in the same way, unless you just kind of end up on like a rolling tenancy and stuff like that. But then that has its own negative stuff, like they can just raise the rent whenever they want and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like, with any slight benefit to you that it might be in terms of flexibility, it's like risk just kind of skyrockets in terms of, it's easier
Mhm.
for them to kick you out, it's easier for them to charge you more, it's easier for
Yeah.
all this other stuff to kind of happen off the back of it. And yeah, so I think that's why for us it was kind of like a priority to move away from renting as quick as possible. But again, it's not easy or feasible for a lot of people to just be like, "Oh, just buy a house,"
Mm.
like, because that's
Yeah.
definitely not easy
And
nowadays.
we have been fortunate because we met in university, and it's a
Mm,
lot easier to, um, achieve at least some of the milestones when you're a couple, or when you have like a friend or someone you can deal with living with,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
someone that you trust that much. Um, and we were so lucky to be in that position and you know, feel solid in our relationship when we did, because it meant like a lot of the milestones kind of up until this point have made sense, hasn't it? Like we needed to go into rented because you had a placement year in Reading, which
Yeah.
when we were both studying in Nottingham, so we had to
Rent somewhere.
go to Reading. And so that kind of started the renting, and then we were lucky that we were able to save at the sacrifice of not traveling. You know, we have barely been on like we've not really traveled much, have we really?
I think a lot of our holidays we've done have been more close. Like again, even this year we haven't really gone that far afield, and like the only
No.
other ones we've done have been to like Sweden in terms of going
Which
to.
is staying with your family at their
Yeah,
family
yeah. It's not
home.
like it's an entire own like holiday, but again, it's obviously nice to do that, but it's definitely not like super flexible in terms of that, and it's also not like we're trying to minimize spending money and things as well.
I
So
mean, other than Scotland, well, even Scotland, like that was for a wedding. Do you think it's weird that we haven't like been abroad together on our own?
yeah, now that we're talking about it, I'm like, that's pretty crazy that we're engaged now. We've been together 5 years and we've not really been on a holiday abroad,
No.
just us
Yeah, at all.
at
And
all.
that you know, that's the choice we made. We wanted to prioritize buying our first home and kind of putting roots down.
Yeah,
So we took that path. But again, that kind of, because neither one of us kind of felt an intense drive to travel and have the traveler's experience, it was quite easy for us to decide, right, let's save for a house and then let's buy a house kind of thing.
yeah,
So again, that milestone makes sense. And then when it came to like driving, because we had our own home, we're further out from the city, we needed to learn to drive. So you know, that meant that we prioritize you getting on the road.
yeah, exactly. And then again, it was a sacrifice on the other side of things because there were times before where I was learning to drive and things, and we could have potentially got that sooner, but then the cost of cars and insurance and all that stuff would have then eaten into other
Yeah.
things. So it's all a bit of a balancing act, really. But I think that's the thing that kind of drives home the point of what we're saying is like you can't really do it all. I think it's a lot of this stuff. It's like when you choose one path, it kind of not shuts the door, but it makes it harder to do another one
Yeah.
with what you're committed to. So like for us with like, oh, we're saving for a house or whatever, it's like you still have that money. You could still spend the money that you're saving on something else if you really want, but then that kicks you further back on your house.
Yeah.
And so it's,
Everything has like repercussions where it didn't really before that point. And
yeah,
even like making the decision that you're the one to drive, not me, was because you'd had previous experience. And what prolonged your journey of passing is things like the impact of post COVID and the extortionate waiting times for even getting tests now,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
still like so long. So and they've obviously got more expensive as well. So
Mm.
you know, there was no chance that I was going to be the one to learn to drive, because although I have more time, it would have cost us so much more in the long run for me to be the first one to pass.
Yeah, just due to the amount of like needing more lessons and stuff, because you'd kind of be starting from scratch essentially, where it's like I've had a decent amount of other lessons and things before. They've just been very stop starty and of
Yeah.
like where they've been and who they've been with and stuff. But at least it's like a baseline. Plus,
Mhm.
I'd already passed my theory test 2 times before that, and it had expired 2 times. So doing it a third was pretty easy at that point.
Yeah. But now we're at this point where there's no clear next step. Like obviously, yes, we're engaged.
Yeah,
So you know,
you'd be
engagement
like
party.
engagement party, wedding would be
But
a next step.
we
But
don't need to, like, wedding wouldn't necessarily, like, it's not something that we like have to do next, is it? Like we
no,
could become parents, we could prioritize, you know, because of like how much a wedding costs, we could have me learn to drive instead. We
yeah.
could um prioritize like a big project on a house. You know, there's so many different, there's no clear next step that we have to take now, and I think I'm definitely like feeling that,
Yeah,
especially be oh sorry, you
I
go.
know I was going to say, like, I think you kind of alluded, but again, it is like the first time we've kind of had that because everything else we've had has very much been like oh, thing is happening. This is the logical step to take
Yeah,
to improve our lives or make this work. And it's like, this is the first time where it's like, well, there's a lot of different routes we could take at this point to do that.
exactly.
So,
But yeah, especially I lost my
Sorry, I
train
didn't mean
now.
to
That's
just
okay.
interrupt you and completely
Uh,
derail you.
no, that's fine.
Um,
But yeah, I think I'm especially feeling it now. That's what I was going to say is that because I'm not like in my late 20s. I'm 26. Like I'm not like I think late 20s is probably like 27,
I
but
was going to say,
I'm
and even that's
closer
the start of your late 20s.
but I'm closer to 30 than I am 20 now. And so and because I think we have always been kind of very, we're very much home bugs. We very much have always wanted to be parents. That's something that we had in common from the start, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the kind of things that we wanted to do. Now that I'm approaching that 30, I feel like I am thinking about things a lot more, and it's so overwhelming with all the different things. We were just
Mm,
before this, we were just talking about pensions. And that's another thing that, is like is another like investment, isn't it? Like it's another financial route that you can take. We're talking about doing stuff with our garden and getting a greenhouse and things.
yeah.
And although like there's varying levels of how much those cost in terms of time and effort and money, it's just so I think I'm just feel like very like recently being very pulled to so many different directions, and I'm just a bit like, you
Yeah.
know?
I do understand that, and I think it definitely is overwhelming in a sense when you haven't got like not necessarily a clear path, but at least like what feels like a more obvious one for what we've had versus now, where it is like there's a lot of things we can do and they'd all improve our lives in different ways, but none of them are
Mhm.
inherently right or inherently wrong to do first. And I think
Yeah.
I am feeling it a bit as well. I think it's like I don't think I'm feeling it necessarily as much as you are, but
Mhm.
I think it's started to kind of hit me as well because I think again I've been very focused on like engagement up to this point, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
my brain's still adjusting to
That's good.
I don't need to keep planning and thinking about this because obviously that's been sort of since probably passing my driving test, that's been like the
Mhm.
biggest thing, so for like the last 4 months or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like my mind's slowly moving away from that now, but again it's like I always feel like I like to have one bigger thing to be focusing on in the background of everything else. And again, it has been like the
Yeah.
saving for a house or like having some goal to work towards. And this is the first time where my brain's adjusting and I'm like, there's not really anything
Now what?
explicitly there at the moment. It's just kind of a floating ball of a couple of things, but it's not like
Yeah.
a clear idea or a clear like, oh, this will start with this and it'll finish with this. Like again, with everything else, it's
Mhm.
like with the engagement, it starts with booking some stuff and then it finishes with the actual engagement. And same with like
Yeah.
saving for a house, it starts with whatever you've got and then it finishes when you've got enough to buy the house you want, you know. So
Yeah, but I mean, arguably, you could say these things are that as well. Like you are saving and then you do, but it's just I think what you're trying to say is like it's the decision of which one is
yeah,
not
yeah,
dependent on. There's no like definite next step. Like I mean, some people who like might say that like, well, you're engaged, so your next thing is wedding because the whole point of engagement is that you get married. But I think for us, we always kind of knew that the engagement would just be a kind of special move to kind of solidify our commitment to one another. Like we knew it was coming, but we don't feel like a pressure that we have to
get
get married immediately kind of
yeah, it's
thing.
not like right, we have got like 2 years to get married or whatever. Like, I don't think we've really got that. And
No.
I don't think again with what we've spoken about before, it's not like that was like, oh okay, from engagement we've got to do it in this time frame. It's
Mhm.
more like the engagement again, I see it more as like a new perk is being able to call you my fiance as well.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not obviously just that, but it is that sort of sign of commitment, but it's not necessarily a sign of we must start working on a wedding immediately. If
Yeah,
there's something else that makes more sense. So
and it's not like like I'm not saying that all I'm thinking about at the moment is like the pulling of different directions. Like I'm also just very grateful and happy and content with the fact that we are engaged
oh
now and
steady.
just, I'm not um diminishing or skipping past that. I'm very grateful and very present with that as well, but
Mm.
it's just something that I feel like is conversations that we have between like us two, and then also just kind of conversations of just people in in like that are our age and are on different paths as well, and just it's just funny how how different everyone's path is.
Yeah. And I think it is like you said, like we know people are going down all different routes. And I think out of sort of my friend group and people I know, it's kind of I'm one of the first to be engaged really. So
Yeah.
whereas I think for yours it's not quite that, but like
Oh no, for like my main
oh
like
yeah.
friendship group, yeah. I mean, I have like got friends that um have children or have been married before or are engaged. I think because I have a lot of different like aged friends. I feel like I have
Mm.
a lot of variation in my friends. I feel like the majority of your friends are from growing up, aren't they?
Yeah, and there's a couple from like university, but again, most of them are the same age anyway. There's only really a handful that are like older
Hmm.
in that.
Whereas I've got people from work, from like home, from university, from just shared interests, like here in Nottingham.
Mm.
So I've got very different, lots of kind of friends scattered in all different walks of life, which I love. But I think that's maybe, yeah, so like people are at different points, a lot more varying points in mine. Plus all of your friends are like a couple years younger as well, a couple years younger than I am.
Yeah, yeah. So it's I think that's what makes it a little bit different,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think it's still that point of you look at anyone like before they post online and stuff again. It's just everyone's doing different stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I was going to be like, what do you think would be the most logical thing to do next? But again, I feel like our whole point of this is like we don't really have one.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't, yeah, it is like, it is, I don't know what our next thing will be, and we want to make sure that we don't just do everything at once. Um,
yeah,
but I think at this point it does feel very tempting to like do a bit of everything, even though there are so many different variations of levels from, projects on the house
yeah,
to starting pensions to planning a whole damn wedding, like.
yeah. There's a bit of a spectrum of effort and money and time that would go into all of these different things.
Yeah. But I feel like a lot of people in their 20s experience that kind of confusion, and I think that's a very normal experience for this kind of age
Yeah, I don't think
range.
there's many people that are like, yeah, here's exactly what I'm going to do, and it's all works out first time, you know. So
Yeah.
I think I do definitely feel very lucky with where we are and how we've ended up here on this path already. So I'm just more excited to see whatever we do next. I'm sure it will work out and make sense
Mhm.
when we're doing it. And if it's not, then we can just change paths. So
Yeah, but I'm just also grateful for the things that we do have now in terms of, we've got
mm,
our house and cats, and um we have each other.
that's
Um
a big one.
yeah. Well, the cat's a big one too, and the house is a big one too. They're all big ones.
That's true.
I'm listing the big ones.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, it's definitely just something that I'm thinking about at the moment, and it feels almost silly because you'd kind of expect that those big milestones in life, you wouldn't be debating which one to do next. Like, it feels almost silly that you're like kind of just trying to decide, as if you're like trying to decide between like two different drinks or something. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like it's so crazy that there's no clear answer. Yeah, I feel like when you're growing up, you kind of, or at least when we were growing up, I feel it looked like the kind of steps people took that when they were like adults just kind of made sense, and kind of were more like thrusted upon them rather than like chosen. Like, you don't really think about the decision making aspect of it. You just kind of
Yeah.
assume one thing comes after another, kind of thing.
And I think it does depend on how lives go, really, because I think it definitely can go the path of like, oh, X has happened, so we have to do this. But I think,
Yeah.
and again, I think the fact that we're at this point and we're like, we can decide what we want to do next is
Mm.
also a situation that we're very lucky to be in
Yeah,
because
for
it's not like,
sure.
oh, we have to do this because something's happened or whatever. Like, we don't have to do any specific thing.
Yeah.
But
And I feel like it is also a shared experience that when you're 20 something, you are normally feeling a lack of one thing. Like there's few 20 somethings that have all the things all done already, because the whole natural thing of like big milestones is that they happen across a rather like decent period of time,
it's a
and you
lifetime. It's not all in like half a decade or something. It's like,
yeah, and so I feel like a lot of people can probably relate, and I've had conversations with people where I'm looking at someone's life being like, oh my God, you're doing so great. You're like, work. Like, I remember having a conversation with one of my closest friends, Danny, who is like working in a job he's worked at for, I don't even know how many years now,
quite a while, yeah.
full time. And he's also studying a law degree. And he's got a nice car, and he's got a really solid friendship group and stuff like that. And he's like happily living at home. And so for him, he like was talking about like how he feels like he's lacking in the milestones, because he doesn't have, like, at the time we had this discussion, there was like, he doesn't have like a serious partner, like a long-term relationship, like a house and things like that. Whereas I was looking from my side, like from my window, I suppose, and being like, well, I don't know how to drive. I'm 26 and I don't know how to drive. Like,
Yeah.
that feels like so unattainable at this point. I've not even had a single driving lesson. Like, I've not even been in the driver's seat before in my life. So for me, that feels like a big aspect of life that I am lacking in. And that's just that encapsulate it, doesn't it? That because there's so much pressure on 20 somethings to, like, I don't know, it's not even like there's one opinion, but everyone has all of the opinions. It's like, oh, when your 20s are for, you hear it, people going, oh, you're in your 20s, that means you're supposed to be like soaking up life and going out all the time and having experiences and traveling. And then
Yeah.
you have people like, you really should be thinking about your pension though, when you should be
Yeah, and
getting
be
an
like
established
saving and
career. Like, why are you
yeah.
still working your like job that you had when you were 16? And oh, do you not have a partner yet? When are you going to give me kids, like
But also you
grandkids?
should explore and just meet new people and all that as well. It's like
Yeah, but then
it's
like, oh, surely you're only in your 20s. Like, stop thinking about kids and start focusing on your career. Like, there's just
yeah.
varying opinions out there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. And I think it's easy to feel the pressure of all of that as like being someone. I think I definitely have, even again, we're going back to what you're saying about looking through like a window at someone else's life. It's easy to look at that and be like, oh, they've got all this stuff I don't have. But I think it's important when thinking like that, not just to you, but just to anyone, because I do it as well. It's like kind of flip it the other way and be like, oh, well, if someone was looking at what I've
Yeah.
got, like, how would they necessarily like not be jealous, but be like, oh, this person's really doing well in their own right as
Yeah,
well. So,
and it's funny you've said that, because that's literally what I said to Danny when we had this
oh, there
conversation.
you
I
go.
was like, we're always gonna see what the other one has, and that's like how I said, like, oh, I wish I was driving, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah,
that's the thing that kind of comes, like, is the way to kind of think about it. And we're very fortunate as well that our immediate family, like our parents and grandparents, don't pressure whatsoever. Like, my mum is literally
no,
like, I don't really mind when you have grandkids. Like, I don't feel like I need to have grandkids. Like, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, fine. And that's very, and there's not any pressure from them. And it's
no.
the same with your family. Like, there's nothing but kindness there, and just supporting us, which I feel like not everyone has.
No, and I think again, I'm sure there are lots of families out there that might not be that way, and I think that would definitely add to the stress of it. But I think, again, with it being in your 20s, I feel like you just put enough stress on yourself a lot of the time. Again,
Yeah.
a general term, not just you, but even having people around who are supportive, and everyone should hopefully have that, is just it means that like you've got voices around that will hopefully negate some of the more negative thoughts you might have around it. But at the same time, it is easy to fall into that comparison trap of like, oh, well, someone's got a better job than me, who is younger than me, or someone's got all this and I haven't got it. And especially with the internet and everything being what it is now, and how easy it is to just go online at any time of day and be bombarded with someone else's life and how amazing it all looks, and all of it could be fake anyway. So
millions of someone's lives as well.
yeah, it's not just one person. That would simplify a bit.
But at the end of the day, you are you forge your own path and you can take it the way that you want to take it. Of course, there are certain things in life that come up that you have to navigate, but
yeah,
like there's no point listening to the voices, however difficult it is. Like, just listen to your own voice, and I think that's what we're doing, is we listen to our own, where we want to go. And I think that's what we all can kind of strive to do, is just focus more on quietening the noise and listening to our own selves as well, and just figure out what's the next right thing for us. And I'm just thinking of a Frozen song now, but
yeah, I was going to say you felt like you're ready to break into song or start full inspirational speech, but I do agree, and I think the way I try and look at it is what's right for one person may not be right for another. So again, with people who've been more like, I guess the direct opposite of ours is like the more like traveling around and seeing a lot of the world approach. It's like, I don't necessarily feel like that would have been the right fit for us. So I think, long term, it's just doing what makes you happy and what's right, and that's all you can really do at the end of the day.
Yeah, literally. But on that note, I think that's a good kind of natural stopping point. So let's move on to the wellbeing segment. So what has boosted your well-being or provided you with some joy this last week?
It's been quite a few things. I'm trying to think of the main one. I think I might have already mentioned it another week, but I think just the fact that it's been lighter for longer. And I guess the more specific one off of that is we had I had my first gym session earlier this week.
Yesterday.
It was it's been a long week. It was yesterday after work, and I really enjoyed that. I felt like I got something out of it. My arms are very stiff and everything today, and
I did suggest to you to stretch after the work.
I know, but I was tired, so I will be doing that in future. But it was nice, and it was nice to go with you because I very much don't know what I'm doing in that environment. So it's good to have you there to be like, right, here's how the machines actually work, and you can turn them on, so you don't look like a silly man just standing in front of this thing pressing buttons. So but I felt like it did make a difference. If I didn't feel like I had my sore throat and things today, I'd probably feel a bit better for a bit, but I'm glad we did it, and I think I definitely got a fair amount out of it. The main thing being fitness, so that's always a good start. But how about you?
Yeah, I think the just like kind of the starting point of going to the gym, it's kind of something that I've kind of played around with for the last few months, because I've been hesitant in terms of worrying that it would make my like health worse almost, because people with like chronic fatigue suggest you don't exercise because
can exacerbate it.
But it does exacerbate it, and the whole thing is that. But I think I'm kind of stepping away from that, like, as a group, and just trying to figure out my own experience. And I do feel like it feels right, and I do tend to follow my like gut instinct and with things like that. So it definitely was kind of like my body was communicating with me that I'm kind of ready for that journey again. And the benefit of it obviously is that I work at, like, I do certain work at the gym that we go to, so it also just is something that, and I think that's what is so important, especially like I know what we're like, and we can very easily fall into doing something once or twice and then just completely dropping it.
Never again.
Like the month of yoga that we did. I
remember. That was a good month. I remember that.
Yeah, and I've still been trying to get you on the yoga mat ever since.
I think I've burnt out on yoga. I did too much of it. But yeah, I think again the fact that like it's somewhere that you work it means we're going to be there anyway. So I think it
allows us to be more disciplined.
Yeah, because I think it's the thing of like, oh, if you're there and we haven't done it that week and we want to do it, it's like it's no extra effort.
Plus, it minimises you driving in traffic.
Yippee.
No. And what is one thing you or I can do to support yourself for the next week? Probably maybe thinking about that sore throat that you have.
I was going to say beat up the sore throat. Might make it worse. But yeah, I think just finding time this weekend to relax a bit, I think. Because I know we're seeing your family as well.
My mum.
Your mum.
It's just my mum.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm being vague with it. But yeah, I think it'll be really nice to see her, but also just to try and rest a bit. Because I think last weekend I feel like we didn't really rest that much considering how much we did before. So I think I kind of need that, and that's what my body's kind of telling me.
Yeah.
We shall see how I am tomorrow, but that will determine how much I need to rest tomorrow anyway. But yeah, so just kind of looking out for that, and I feel like I'm slowly recovering from the fact that we finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. We were very invested in that for a while, and that's like that thing when I'm very invested in a game and I finish it, I feel a bit lost for a while. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to overcome that as well.
Need to figure out your next game.
I've got a couple. I just don't really know. They're all really long ones, so I'm just like, I feel like I need a bit of playing short games for a while, and then I can build up to starting a new one.
I feel like it's coming back time for Sims soon.
Oh, that's good, because then I can start. Because I don't think any of the ones that I've got, because you got quite into Rebirth with.
I like the story.
Yeah.
I don't like all the fighting,
the combat and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Combat is not.
It's not very fun to watch.
No.
If you're not playing it, I think it's like
It's
the whole
just a
thing
bit
is
like,
it's a kind of strategy to it, but
yeah,
you don't really get
all I'm
that
just
from
seeing is you mashing buttons and
Yeah.
people getting killed, which is not really
very fun.
entertaining.
No.
But we do have Split Fiction as well. Don't forget our co-op game.
That, yeah.
So that's one that we can kind of continue on.
Yeah, it'll be good for the meantime, I think.
In terms of my kind of focus for the next week, I mean, the next couple of days is about just making sure that my mum has a really good weekend when she comes. Because obviously it's Mother's Day on Sunday, and that's quite a big thing in my household. Well, my household with you now. So yeah, I just want to make sure that the weekend is special for her, and I'd also kind of like to do a bit of like make a bit of progress with like spring cleaning and stuff, because our kitchen is crying out for a deep clean and I just haven't had time for it, and I'm about to head into to be honest, it's a busy next few weeks because the Easter holidays are around the corner, and I'm already working half of the days of the Easter holidays, so it's going to be a bit crazy, bit more than I usually do. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Nice and relaxing.
Yeah.
After everything we're talking about, but no, I think it'll be really nice, and I'll support with this weekend for making it really nice for you and your mum.
Yeah.
And obviously, I want to do what I can from afar for my mum as well.
Yeah.
So
happy Mother's Day, because this will all be coming out on Mother's Day. So happy
my
Mother's
family
Day,
might be
Mum.
listening then. So happy Mother's Day if you are. Hope you enjoyed the presents. Anyway, enough shout outs.
Yeah, right. Let's get you rested and feeling better. But yeah, hope all the mothers in whatever form that motherhood takes has a kind of feels celebrated today, and you're celebrated by us no matter what. So thanks to all the mamas out there.
I was going to say we'll raise a glass, but we probably won't be drinking. So
we'll raise a peppermint mug.
There we go.
Tea, which we're about to have.
Yes.
But yes, sending everybody lots of love and warmth, and we will see you all next time.
See you then.